You ever have one of those moments where life gives you a little nudge on the shoulder like, "Hey, buddy, you might want to take a look at this"? Well, mine came with oat milk and a complimentary heartache. Let me rewind a bit. So, I was dating this girl. Let's call her Anya. Not because I'm trying to protect her identity, but because saying her real name out loud still causes me to clench my jaw like I'm trying to crack walnuts with my molars. Anya was beautiful in that effortless, "I just woke up like this but still look like an art film" way. She had that whole barista meets bohemian thing going. You know, flowy skirts, ironic tattoos, and a deep, emotional connection to obscure teas. She worked at this cozy little cafe downtown, the kind of place with mismatched chairs, exposed brick walls, and jazz music that made you feel like you should be writing a novel instead of doom-scrolling on your phone. Now, I won't lie, I used to go there way more than necessary. Like, way more. Suddenly, I was a man who needed 3 cappuccinos before noon. Every time I showed up, she'd give me that warm smile, slide me a croissant on the house, and call me something sweet in a voice soft enough to make my cholesterol spike from emotional butter. We'd been dating for about 7 months. Long enough to leave a toothbrush at her place, but not so long that I'd fully committed to organizing my sock drawer there. Things were good, or so I thought. But as my therapist, whose rates I now begrudgingly appreciate, would later explain, sometimes you're so busy enjoying the honeymoon suite, you don't notice the termites in the walls. Now, the story really kicks off one sunny Thursday. I remember because it was laundry day. My sock situation had reached DEFCON 1, and I had exactly 1 clean pair left, the lime green ones with flamingos on them. They weren't cool flamingos. They were confused flamingos, like they were just as surprised to be on my ankles as I was to wear them. Anyway, I swung by the cafe that morning like usual. But when I got there, she wasn't at the counter. Weird, I thought. Anya never missed the morning rush. It was her favorite part of the day. Something about the chaos of too many espresso orders and the smell of cinnamon pastries brought her to life like a caffeinated Disney princess. I asked the guy behind the counter, this teenager who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, if Anya was around. He gave me a shrug that could have won awards for apathy. "She's on a break or something," he said, chewing gum like it owed him money. I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe she was in the back doing inventory. Or maybe she was practicing latte art in the shape of existential dread again. Who knows? But it was what he said next that gave me pause. "She's with that tourist guy again," he mumbled, more to himself than to me. Tourist guy? Now, I'm not the jealous type. I'm more of the, "Hey, live your life, but also maybe don't fall in love with anyone else while we're still splitting Netflix" type. So I played it cool. Smiled. Nodded. Ordered a chai latte I didn't even want just so I could loiter without suspicion. And then I went home. Not because I was suspicious. Oh no. I went home because I had just remembered. I had forgotten my phone charger, and I was down to 8%. That's basically modern survival mode. We're talking red alert. I needed the charger like a knight needs his sword, or like I need closure at the end of every movie. But here's where it gets cinematic. I walk into our apartment. Yes, our apartment, because by this point we were basically living together, and the first thing I hear is laughter. Not TV laughter. Real laughter. The kind where someone has just said something genuinely funny. The kind where someone feels safe. And there they were. In the kitchen. My kitchen. Hugging. Not just a friendly, "Hey, good to see you again" hug. No, sir. This was one of those long, meaningful hugs. The kind of hug that says, "I see you, all of you, and I like the way your shampoo smells." Now, I'm not a violent man. The only thing I've ever punched is a pillow during allergy season. But I felt a tiny fire light up in my chest. The guy was tall, blonde, wearing a scarf indoors, which, in retrospect, should have been a red flag on its own. And Anya, well, she looked happy. Like really happy. Like she'd just found someone who didn't wear confused flamingo socks. I cleared my throat. They turned. She jumped back like I'd caught her committing Grand Theft Kitchen. He smiled like he had no idea he was in the middle of a love triangle. A very awkward, very European love triangle. "Oh, hey," she said, casually, like I had just walked in on her watering a plant. "Hey," I said back, gripping my phone charger like it was a sword. And that, my friends, was the moment the wheels of the train started to wobble off the tracks. But instead of shouting or crying or dramatically dropping my keys, like I rehearsed in my mind, I just nodded. "Cool," I said. Yep. That was my big comeback. Cool. Because what do you even say when you walk in on your girlfriend mid-cuddle with a tourist from Nemechin? You say, "Cool," apparently. Anyway, that was the beginning of the end. Or the end of the beginning. I'm not sure. All I knew was that scarf-wearing blondie from Nemechin had just officially entered my storyline. And oh boy, the plot was about to thicken. So there I was, standing in my own kitchen, charger in hand, third wheel in a situation I definitely didn't sign up for. Across from me, Anya, my girlfriend/barista extraordinaire, and our guest, the scarf-wrapped mystery man from Nemechin. You know Nemechin? That European country where everyone looks like a cologne ad and eats cheese for breakfast. Yeah, that one. Now, I'd love to tell you I handled it like a smooth operator. That I gave the guy a firm handshake, nodded like an emotionally evolved man, and said something worldly like, "Ah, love is a river, and sometimes it flows in new directions." But instead, I just stood there like someone had unplugged my brain and replaced it with elevator music. "I didn't realize we were having company," I finally managed. To which Scarf Boy replied, "Hello, I am Lucas," in a voice so warm and polite, it made me feel like I was the intruder. Anya jumped in like a nervous tour guide. "Lucas is visiting from Berlin. He's doing this backpacking through Europe thing. He stopped by the cafe a few days ago, and we just clicked." Clicked. Clicked. It echoed in my head like an accidental Tinder swipe. Clicked? I didn't even know people still said that outside of toothpaste commercials. And yet here she was, casually telling me that while I was at home folding flamingo socks, she was out here forming international cliques. I looked at Lucas. He smiled. His teeth were perfect. Not normal perfect, like suspiciously perfect. Like, your dentist uses lasers and whispers meditation mantras while cleaning. Perfect. Well, I said, I just came for my charger. Didn't mean to interrupt your clickfest. That got me a sharp look from Anya, like I'd just made a joke about her grandma's soup recipe. Lucas, on the other hand, just chuckled, like I was part of some adorable sitcom he'd accidentally wandered into. "You are funny," he said. "Oh no. Don't you dare, Lucas. Don't you come into my house, hug my girlfriend, and compliment me. That's like robbing someone and leaving behind a thank you note and a cookie." But what did I do? I smiled. Because that's what we emotionally mature, completely not suspicious guys do, right? We smile. We pretend everything's cool while our insides do the cha-cha in steel-toed boots. "Well, Lucas," I said, in my best host who's definitely not cracking, "welcome to our humble abode." I motioned toward the couch with the grace of a passive-aggressive game show host. "Make yourself at home. Mi casa yes su casa, or however you say that in Nemechinian." Anya cleared her throat. "It's German." "Right. That. Now listen, I know I'm being petty. I know it's immature to feel threatened by a man whose scarf costs more than my entire wardrobe. But you try watching your significant other turn into a romantic comedy character, while an actual tourist stands in your kitchen smiling like he invented sunlight. Anyway, Lucas eventually left, probably to go pet a stray dog or philosophize under a tree. You know, tourist things. As soon as the door closed, Anya turned to me with this exasperated sigh. "Really?" she said. "Really what?" I said, still holding my charger like it was my emotional support cable. "You don't have to be weird about it." "Weird about it? Ma'am, I just walked in on my girlfriend embracing a scarf stranger in the shared sacred space where I keep my cereal. Forgive me for not handing out welcome baskets." "I'm not being weird," I said. "I'm being charmingly skeptical." She rolled her eyes. "He's just a friend." Now, I've heard that line before. We all have. The only people who believe that are the ones saying it, and even they sound like they're trying to convince themselves. "Cool," I replied, again defaulting to the one word in my vocabulary that now meant the opposite of what it was supposed to. But then, silence. And that's when I realized something. I didn't want to fight. Not because I wasn't upset. Oh, I was. But I was also tired. Tired of pretending we were still synced up when clearly we were buffering on different Wi-Fi networks. So I just nodded. "All right," I said. "He's just a friend." "Got it." And then, in what might be the most adult thing I've ever done, I walked out. Not dramatically. Not with slamming doors or final words. I just left. Took my charger. Took my flamingo socks. Left my pride somewhere between the espresso machine and the betrayal casserole that was simmering in my stomach. That night, I stayed at my friend Pete's place. Pete's apartment smells like old takeout and broken dreams, but his couch doesn't judge you when you're wearing emotional sweatpants. He handed me a beer, didn't ask questions, and put on an action movie. Because sometimes, what you need isn't therapy. Sometimes, what you need is explosions and the distant sound of someone else's problems. As Vin Diesel drove a car through a building for no apparent reason, I leaned back and sighed. "Well," I said, "at least now I don't have to pretend to like her weird mushroom tea." Pete raised his bottle in a toast. "To freedom," he said. And even though it hurt, I clinked mine against his and whispered, "To freedom." Woke up the next morning on Pete's couch, staring at a ceiling fan that sounded like it had dreams of becoming a helicopter. My neck was kinked, my pride was bruised, and I was using a throw pillow that smelled faintly like barbecue sauce. Still, there's a weird kind of comfort in rock bottom, like, well, can't go much lower unless I start texting my ex to ask if she misses my French press. Spoiler, I did not. I did, however, start what I call Operation Moving On. The plan was simple: distract, reinvent, heal, in that order. I didn't have a therapist on speed dial, but I did have a playlist called Songs to Emotionally Stare Out a Window To, and that felt like a decent substitute. First order of business, change the playlist. I swapped out the sad acoustic songs for upbeat tracks with titles like I'm Over Her, I Swear, and Scarf Boy Ain't Got Nothing on Me. Second, get some advice. Now, normal people call their parents. Rational people read self-help books or go to the gym. I, in a moment of pure caffeine-fueled desperation, went to see Madame Yelena, the local psychic who ran a shop between a vape store and a nail salon. Let me be clear, I don't believe in psychics. But I also don't believe in kale, and that hasn't stopped people from paying $12 a bowl for it. I walked in, and the place smelled like incense and mystery. Beaded curtains. Velvet everything. A cat named Rumi sitting on a stack of tarot cards, like he paid rent there. Madame Yelena looked exactly how you'd expect. Flowing robes, 30 bracelets, and an expression like she knew I hadn't flossed that morning. She looked at me, tilted her head, and said, "You've been betrayed." Okay, well now I'm listening. I gave her the rundown. Left out the scarf. Didn't want to skew the reading. She shuffled her cards dramatically, lit something that smelled like regret and lavender, and then told me this. The person you are meant for is not the one who drinks mushroom tea. She is someone new. She will find you. But only when you stop looking in the cafe windows of the past. Pretty sure that was just a fancy way of saying let it go. But she said it with such flair that I paid her $20 and walked out feeling like I'd just been emotionally exfoliated. Back at Pete's, I started putting the plan into action. I deleted old photos. Well, okay, not deleted, just moved them to a secret folder labeled Do Not Open unless you're feeling self-destructive. I swapped out my old hoodie, the one she used to borrow, indefinitely, for a fresh one that smelled like detergent and questionable life choices. Then I did the most terrifying thing of all. I opened up my dating app. Now, dating apps are like cereal aisles. Endless choices, bright packaging, but somehow everything leaves you feeling a little empty and slightly bloated. Swipe. Swipe. Left. Right. Oh hey, someone who looks like they might not judge my sock collection. One profile caught my eye. Her name was Margo. Her bio said, I like dogs, waffles, and people who can laugh at themselves. Bonus points if you can make a decent omelet. Omelets? Laughter? Dogs? She sounded like brunch in human form. I messaged her. What's your omelet policy on mushrooms? Asking for a friend with trauma. She replied within minutes. Mushrooms are fine. Betrayal isn't. Let's talk. Boom. Connection. Maybe not a click, but definitely a soft ding. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I wasn't falling in love again. Heck, I was still adjusting to being a guy who kept his toothbrush in a drawer alone. But it felt good. Light. Like cracking open a window after someone burned microwave popcorn. Over the next few days, I started feeling human again. I went for walks. Listened to podcasts. Ate food that didn't come from a bag. And best of all, I stopped checking Anya's Instagram. Not because I wasn't curious, oh I was. But because the psychic's words kept echoing in my head. Stop looking in the cafe windows of the past. And I figured, hey, if I'm going to be single, I might as well be mysteriously single. Like a man who knows how to fold a fitted sheet and has deep opinions on soup. I even ran into Anya one afternoon. It was awkward, of course. We did that polite. Oh hi, how's your emotional implosion going? Small talk. She looked good. Still had that effortless aesthetic. Still smelled like lemongrass and life choices I wasn't part of anymore. She asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I'm good. Just figuring things out. She nodded, gave me a look I couldn't quite read and said, That's good. Then she walked away, scarf in hand, probably off to click with someone else. And me? I walked the other direction, into the sunshine, earbuds in, playlist updated. Because if I've learned anything from the wise words of Madame Yelena, it's this. Sometimes healing isn't a big, dramatic moment. Sometimes it's just a guy in flamingo socks, smiling to himself on a Tuesday afternoon, realizing that the world is still pretty funny, even when your latte comes with a side of betrayal. Dating after a heartbreak is a little like learning to walk again, except your shoes are made of jello and someone just greased the floor. But I was committed to Operation Moving On, and thanks to Margo, the brunch-loving beacon of hope, I had my first real post-Anya date lined up. We agreed to meet at this laid-back brunch spot she recommended, a place called the Griddle and Vine, which sounded fancy enough to justify overpriced eggs, but casual enough that I wouldn't need to pretend I understood wine pairings. I arrived early, of course. That's my thing. Can't help it. I'm the kind of guy who shows up to a dentist appointment 20 minutes early, just to sit awkwardly reading a magazine from 2018. So there I was, wearing my best jeans, which, to be clear, means they didn't have mystery stains, a shirt that I definitely ironed by hanging it in the bathroom during a hot shower, and a charmingly nervous smile. Then Margo walked in. And I'll tell you what, she looked exactly like her photos. Which, in the world of dating apps, is like finding out your frozen pizza actually comes out like the picture on the box. She had this easy, genuine energy about her. Warm smile. No scarf. Already a win. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied, then immediately tripped over my own chair like it was trying to sabotage me. She laughed, not in a mean way, but in a, "You're not a serial killer, this is refreshing" way. We ordered waffles, talked about everything from guilty pleasure TV shows, we both love Bake Off, no shame, to weird childhood injuries. I told her about the time I got my head stuck in a banister at age 10. She told me about accidentally gluing her hand to a shoebox in 5th grade. Bonding. I was honest about Anya. Not in a bitter, "let me trauma dump over coffee" way, but enough to let her know I was still a little emotionally limping. She nodded. "I appreciate that," she said. "Most people just say my last relationship was complicated and then talk about their crypto investments." Things were going surprisingly well, which, in my world, is usually a sign that disaster is lurking somewhere nearby. So naturally, I decided to impress her by making her an omelet the following weekend. Now, I should tell you, my culinary skills exist somewhere between can toast bread and set off the smoke alarm that one time with frozen lasagna. But I had watched approximately 8 YouTube videos titled, "How to Make the Perfect Omelet," and I was ready. Saturday morning rolled around. I cleaned the kitchen, bought the ingredients, played jazz in the background, because apparently eggs cook better with Miles Davis in the room. Margo came over, took one look at my prep station, and said, "Wow, are we filming a cooking show?" I grinned. "Only if it ends with applause and not a fire extinguisher." Things started okay. Eggs? Cracked like a pro. Veggies? Chopped with only minimal finger danger. But then, the flip. Oh, the flip. See, I got cocky. I tried that Chef Y move where you flip the omelet in the pan with a flick of the wrist. Like Gordon Ramsay. Except instead of flipping, the omelet performed a tragic nosedive, half of it landing on the stove, the other half sliding onto the floor in slow motion like a sad little egg-based soap opera. There was a pause. Then Margo burst out laughing. Not giggling, laughing. The full body, can't breathe kind of laugh. I stood there, covered in sautéed onions and self-doubt. "Well," I said, "I call that an avant-garde deconstructed brunch experience." Still laughing, she helped me clean it up. Then we ordered waffles. Again. That was the moment I realized something. Being with someone who laughs with you when things go sideways? That's rare. And pretty great. The next week, I started hitting the gym again. Not for revenge. Not to get some dramatic post-breakup glow-up, so I could strut past Anya looking like an extra from Magic Mike, midlife edition. No. I went because I wanted to feel strong again. Like myself. Also, Pete guilt-tripped me into it. He said, and I quote, "You can't emotionally recover on my couch forever. It's starting to smell like existential dread." So I joined a gym. I wore shorts that were just a little too ambitious. And I lifted weights with the kind of form that made the trainer flinch. But each rep, each bead of sweat, felt like another layer of old heartbreak melting off. I wasn't trying to erase Anya. I was just rediscovering me. The guy who liked stupid puns and jazz and flamingo socks. The guy who once made an omelet so bad it became folklore. The guy who got knocked down by a scarf stranger from Nemechin and lived to laugh about it. Let me paint the picture. It's a Tuesday. The kind of Tuesday that's so aggressively average it should be illegal. I'm walking through the park, earbuds in, listening to a podcast called Men Who Bake, because apparently this is who I am now. I've leaned hard into recovering heartbroken man becomes hobby guy. And honestly, it's not terrible. So I'm minding my business, sipping an oat milk latte. Yeah, I've changed, when I spot something across the park bench area. A man. A scarf. You already know who it is. Lucas. Now, I hadn't thought about the guy in a while. I figured he'd gone back to Nemechin to teach yoga to goats, or become a minimalist furniture influencer, or whatever people like him do when they're not hunting other people's girlfriends. But no, there he was, reading a book, feeding pigeons, wearing a scarf like it had deep emotional significance. I froze. Not because I was scared of him. Please, I'd seen the guy try to cut a bagel once. It was not impressive, but because I wasn't sure how I would react. Would I feel rage? Sadness? The urge to challenge him to a passive-aggressive poetry slam? Nope. I felt bored, which, weirdly, felt like progress. I walked past him without slowing down. Didn't even make eye contact. He didn't notice me, or if he did, he didn't let on. And you know what? That silence, that nothingness, felt great. So I went home and told Pete. Lucas? In our park? Pete said, nearly spitting out his cereal. Did you at least trip him? No, Pete. Did you throw birdseed in his scarf? Okay, I wish I'd done that. Pete shook his head. You're too classy for revenge. That's your problem. This coming from a man whose idea of emotional healing involves wearing a headband and quoting action movies out of context. Which brings me to Pete's next idea, the breakup bonfire. Now, when most people process emotions, they go for long walks, journal, maybe get bangs. Pete? He suggests we burn all our relationship relics in his backyard. He texted the group chat. Firecracker. Breakup bonfire this Saturday. Bring your past. And marshmallows. And honestly, I was in. Saturday rolled around, and Pete had turned his backyard into a ritualistic purification zone. There were torches. There was music. There was a questionable amount of flammable liquid. We each brought something to toss into the flames. Pete threw in an old hoodie his ex left that smelled like her perfume and disappointment. Todd, our other friend, recently dumped via post-it note, tossed in a mixtape. An actual CD. The man lives in 2025 and still got dumped like it's 2004. I brought a mug. A ceramic mug that said espresso yourself in cursive. It was Anya's. She used to drink her mushroom tea from it. I kept it out of habit. But that night, under the glow of bad decisions and toasted marshmallows, I threw it in the fire. It cracked, then shattered, then melted a little. And weirdly, I didn't feel sad. I felt light. I looked around at my ridiculous friends, the smell of burned memories in the air, and I smiled. Afterward, I called Margo. She didn't pick up, was out with friends, but she texted. You plus waffles tomorrow? I have stories. I replied. Only if you promise not to judge me for setting fire to ceramic. She sent back a laughing emoji and a heart. And that's when it hit me, not all at once, but like a slow, steady sunrise. I like this woman. Not just in a, you're a rebound and I need serotonin way, but in a real, grounded, I like who I am around you way. No drama. No weird cafe politics. Just laughter. Honesty. Shared stories about failed omelets and glue-based childhood trauma. I wasn't all the way healed. Not yet. But I was getting there. One waffle at a time. Sunday morning rolled in like a golden retriever, warm, loud, and a little too energetic for someone who rose to the breakup mug 12 hours earlier. I'd agreed to meet Margo at this place she swore by called Sunny Side Up. It was the kind of brunch spot where the waiters wear ironic t-shirts and every meal comes with a surprise side. Sometimes it's fruit. Sometimes it's a tiny plant. Once, according to Margo, she got a single Lego piece. No explanation. I showed up wearing a navy button-up that I'd ironed for real this time, no steam trickery, and my least wrinkled jeans. Not trying too hard. Just making an effort. She was already there, sitting at a window seat, sipping coffee, and looking like every romantic comedy lead right before the happy montage kicks in. I slid into the booth. "Good news," I said. "I brought 0 flammable ceramics today." She smiled. "Then I guess we're safe to order eggs." We talked. We laughed. We got into the kind of conversation where you lose track of time. Not just, "What do you do for work?" kind of stuff, but the real ones, like, "What did your childhood room look like?" And, "What's your go-to-comfort movie when the world feels upside down?" Hers, The Princess Bride. Mine, Die Hard. Which, honestly, tells you everything you need to know about both of us. Then she asked the question, "So, are you over her?" Now Margo didn't ask it with judgment. She wasn't trying to catch me in anything. Just wanted honesty, which, in my experience, is rare and slightly terrifying. I took a sip of coffee and told her the truth. "Not completely," I said. "But I'm not trying to go back. I've spent enough time emotionally camping in the past. And you make me want to be present again." She didn't blink. She smiled. And then she leaned in, slowly, thoughtfully, and kissed me. Right there. Over eggs and emotional honesty. Just a soft, simple, quiet kiss that didn't ask for anything other than the moment. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a slow-motion music video. It was better. It was real. After brunch, we walked through the park. The same one where I'd seen Lucas. This time, I didn't think about scars or betrayal or foreign cologne. I thought about how nice it was to walk next to someone who didn't make me feel like I had to impress them just to be worth staying. Margo had this way of making you feel seen. Not in a soulmate kind of way, but in a "you're enough, exactly as you are, even when your omelets fail and your socks are loud" kind of way. Then it happened. We sat on a bench. She was telling me about her weird neighbor who owns 7 cats and names them after Shakespeare characters. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out. "Anya." Text message. I stared at it for a second. Margo noticed. "Everything okay?" I nodded, not ready to read it yet. "Yeah. Just someone from my past poking their head in." She nodded like she understood. Because, of course, she did. She reached over and laced her fingers in mine. "You don't have to check it right now," she said. "We're here." So I didn't. I let it sit. Because the guy I used to be, the guy who would have dropped everything to see what Anya had to say, wasn't in charge anymore. The new guy? He was sitting on a bench, holding hands with a woman who laughed at his bad jokes and saw through his emotional scaffolding. The sun was out. My coffee was still warm. And I wasn't heartbroken anymore. Not completely. But enough to start building something new. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't waiting for someone to come back. I was ready to move forward. So, I didn't open the message right away. It sat there for a full day. Just hanging out on my lock screen, like an old friend you run into at the grocery store who says, "We should totally catch up sometime." But you both know that's not happening. Still, curiosity is a persistent little creature. That night, after Margo left, with a hug that said, "We're good, take your time." I sat on Pete's couch, phone in hand, chewing on a leftover waffle like it was a stress ball. Pete looked over. "You gotta read it, or you gonna start a staring contest with your phone?" I shrugged. "I don't know if I care what she has to say." He nodded. "That's probably why you should read it." And dang it, he was right. I hate when Pete's right. It messes with the cosmic order of things. So I opened the message. It said, "Hey, I don't really know why I'm writing this. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't handle things well. I hope you're okay." That was it. No drama. No, I want you back. No passive-aggressive haikus. Just a short, strange, gentle little note from the past. I stared at it for a while. And then I replied, "Thanks. I'm okay. I hope you are too." And that was it. No closure manifesto. No sarcasm. No asking what she saw in Lucas or if he had to hand wash his scarves. Just thanks. I didn't hear back. I didn't expect to. But something about hitting send felt like exhaling for the first time in months. The next day, I did something bold. I went back to the cafe. Yep, that cafe. Ground zero of the click heard round the world. I don't know what I was looking for. A ghost? A sense of closure? Maybe just a really good croissant. They were criminally good, betrayal aside. I walked in. The place looked the same. Dim lighting, indie jazz, that weird bird painting in the corner that always looked like it was judging you. But Anya wasn't there. There was a new barista. Tattooed arms, pink hair, a smile that didn't know me or my emotional baggage. I ordered a cappuccino and sat in the same spot I used to sit in when Anya would wink at me over the espresso machine. This time, there was no wink. Just a warm drink, the soft hum of Miles Davis, and the quiet realization that life keeps going, even in the places that once froze your heart. I took a sip. It tasted the same as always. But I didn't. On the way out, I slipped a sticky note onto the table. I don't know why. Just felt right. It said, "Thank you for the memories. The good ones, too." Because here's the thing. Not everything broken has to stay jagged. Sometimes you just leave it where it fell, smile at the dent it made in your story, and move on. Later that evening, I told Margo I'd gone back to the cafe. She smiled. "How was it?" "Fine," I said. "Weird, but fine." "Did the coffee taste the same?" "Yep." "And how'd it feel sitting in your old spot?" I paused. "Like I'd grown out of it." She nodded like she knew exactly what I meant. Then she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "Well, if you ever want a new spot, I know a place that serves killer pancakes." And just like that, I knew. The past? It didn't own me anymore. It was just part of the map. And I was finally headed somewhere new. A few weeks later, Margo had this idea. "We should take a weekend trip," she said, casually sipping a smoothie that looked like it had been legally classified as a plant. I blinked. "A trip? Yeah. Like, rent a cabin, get out of the city, maybe hike a little. You know, breathe some air that hasn't been through 6 filters." Now, don't get me wrong. I love a good cabin getaway. But there's something about packing a bag with someone you like that makes you feel like you're either about to have a wonderful time or dramatically realize you're incompatible over a game of Scrabble. Still, I said yes. Because I liked her. A lot. And I figured if I could survive being dumped via scarf, I could handle a weekend with a woman who packed trail mix in Tupperware. We rented a little A-frame cabin 2 hours out of town. Nothing fancy. No Wi-Fi. Just trees, a tiny fireplace, and a suspiciously enthusiastic Airbnb host named Brent who texted, "Hope you love Esmores, winky face." On the drive up, We had the windows down, the music up, and the kind of road trip snacks that make you question your diet and your decisions. Margo made a playlist called Caffeine and Feelings, which featured Lizzo, Simon and Garfunkel, and, for some reason, the Jurassic Park theme song. I like to mix moods, she explained. About halfway there, it started to rain. One of those dramatic, movie-style storms where the windshield wipers are basically just panicked bystanders. Margo kept driving, cool as ever, while I pretended I wasn't terrified of hydroplaning off a scenic overlook. Eventually, we made it. Wet shoes, cold hands, and that post-rain smell that makes you forget how much you dislike wet socks. Inside, the cabin was small but cozy. Wood walls. A creaky couch. Board games with half the pieces missing. The kind of place where ghosts probably write poetry and raccoons pay rent in acorns. We changed into dry clothes and made grilled cheese over the stove while a fire slowly sputtered into existence behind us. The vibe? Immaculate. Then came the conversation. We were sitting on the floor, her with a mug of tea, me with a beer, when she looked over and said, "So where do you see this going?" Now, that question? It's deceptively small. 5 words. Harmless, even. But it hits like a dodgeball to the soul if you're not ready. Luckily, I was ready. I don't know exactly, I said, but I know I want it to go somewhere. I'm not still tangled up in the past. I'm here. With you. She nodded, eyes soft, but serious. I like you, she said, but I don't want to be someone's distraction. I want to be the thing. The real thing. I leaned in. You're not a distraction. You're a plot twist. She smirked. A good one. The best one. We kissed. Again, nothing dramatic. Just warm. Familiar. The kind of kiss you give someone when you're not trying to prove anything, just showing up. The rest of the weekend was low-key magic. We hiked a little, I wheezed a lot. We played board games and made up half the rules. We watched a thunderstorm roll in over the mountains while sharing a blanket that smelled like cedar and burnt grilled cheese. At one point, she looked over and said, "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't walked in that day and seen her with that tourist?" I paused, thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "I think I would have kept trying to be someone I wasn't, for someone who didn't really see me. I think I'd still be ordering tea I hated and pretending scarves are cool." She laughed, and I smiled, because that was the truth. As painful as that moment had been, it was also the beginning of everything better. Sometimes the worst day of your life quietly turns into the best thing that ever happened to you. You just don't realize it until you're sitting on a creaky couch in a rainy cabin, holding hands with someone who laughs at your bad puns and packs trail mix with extra M&Ms just because she knows. Coming back from a weekend trip is like time travel. One minute you're sipping tea next to a fireplace in the woods, and the next you're stuck behind someone in a grocery store who's trying to price match a can of beans. Still, I was in a good mood. A really good mood. Cabin air still clinging to my hoodie, a smile I wasn't trying to suppress, and a phone full of inside jokes with Margo like, "Raccoons are just forest landlords. Jurassic Park theme equals ideal makeout music. Trail mix is emotionally unstable granola." So yeah, vibes? Immaculate. I was in the store grabbing essentials. Milk, cereal, maybe something green to convince myself I eat vegetables. That's when it happened. I turned the corner near the yogurts and boom. Anya. Holding almond milk. Looking very casual. Scarfless, I'll note, which felt symbolic in ways I couldn't fully articulate. For a half second, we just stared at each other. Not in a dramatic soap opera way. More like two people realizing they both accidentally showed up to the same costume party in last year's trauma. She smiled, small and polite. Hey. Hey, I said, doing my best not to knock over a pyramid of Greek yogurt cups. We exchanged the usual small talk. How are you? Work's good. Yeah, same. Weather's weird, huh? Then came the part one didn't expect. She looked down, then back up. I saw your message. From before. Thank you. It meant a lot. I nodded. We were good for a while, I said. I'm not mad about that part. She smiled. Me neither. And that was it. No lingering looks. No unspoken what ifs. Just two people who once loved each other, standing in the dairy aisle, realizing they'd both moved on. We wished each other well. Hugged, a real, quick, non-scandalous one, and parted ways. I walked out of that store feeling like I'd just deleted an old app one no longer used. It had run its course. Took up space. And now? Now I had room for something better. That night I called Margo. Hey, I said. How do you feel about labels? She paused. Depends. Are we talking fashion or emotional? Emotional, I said. Though I am rethinking my sock collection. She laughed. Okay. What kind of label are we talking? I took a breath. The good kind. The kind where I call you my girlfriend. The kind where you know I'm not hedging, or recovering, or waiting for something else. I'm just here. With you. There was a pause. Then, I'd really like that. Boom. Just like that, the unofficial became official. The maybe became yes. The healing became love. We didn't post it. No big announcement. No status change with fireworks. Just two people quietly choosing each other. I went to bed that night feeling full. Not with food, though I did eat a questionable frozen burrito. Full in that soul-deep, toe-wiggling, heart-settled way. Because I wasn't just past Anya now. I was with Margo. And more importantly, I was me again. Just a better version. The kind who survived the worst hug of his life, and came out laughing on the other side. If you told me 6 months ago that I'd end up here, fully healed, emotionally hydrated, in a healthy relationship with a woman who brings extra hot sauce packets to brunch, just in case, I would have laughed so hard my flamingo socks would have slipped off. But here we are. Life didn't give me the ending I wanted. It gave me the one I didn't see coming but actually needed. And it all came together on a random Saturday morning. Margo and I were walking through the farmer's market, arms full of produce we both knew we probably wouldn't cook. She spotted this booth with handmade mugs. Real sturdy ones, like they could survive a breakup bonfire and still ask you how your day was going. One caught my eye. It was simple. Deep blue, wide handle. The kind of mug that says, "Hey, I don't flinch when life throws curveballs." I like that one, Margo said. Yeah, I replied. Looks like it won't judge me for microwaving leftovers twice. We bought it. Brought it home. Washed it with that quiet reverence people usually reserve for first cars or emotionally significant sandwiches. That mug became my new favorite. Not because it was flashy, but because I picked it. No one gifted it to me. No one left it in my cabinet without asking. It wasn't a reminder of who I used to be. It was just mine. Later that afternoon, we had friends over, Pete included. He brought a fruit tray and exactly zero emotional maturity, which is how you know Pete is thriving. Look at you two, he said, flopping onto our couch like it owed him rent. Healthy. Domestic. Gross. Margo grinned. You're just mad we don't let you store beef jerky in the fridge anymore. Justice for jerky, he mumbled. The truth is, life felt normal again. Not flashy. Not overly Instagrammable. Just good. I even took up baking. Real baking. Like flour on the apron, is this supposed to rise? Kind of baking. I made Margo a banana bread that didn't taste like regret. That's progress. One night, while we were sitting on the couch, feet tangled, Netflix asking if we were still watching, obviously yes, I turned to her and said, "Remember when I couldn't even make an omelet?" She smirked. "You still can't." Fair. "But I can make you laugh. And I think that counts for something." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "That counts for everything." Now look, I'm not saying I've become a love guru. I still lose socks in the dryer. I still get emotional during credit card commercials with puppies. But I've learned a few things along the way. Closure doesn't come from dramatic goodbyes. It comes from quiet mornings where you no longer feel the urge to look back. Healing isn't a race. It's a series of very average Tuesdays that don't hurt anymore. And sometimes, the best revenge is not success or six-pack abs. It's peace. Peace, and someone who buys you weird mugs and listens to your dumb puns. So yeah, maybe it started with betrayal. With a hug in a kitchen I thought was safe, and a scarf that became my villain origin story. But it ended with me standing tall, laughing again, loving again.